So students, in the last class, we have started with different types of management thought, or you can say evolution of management. We have started with evolution of management, that how management has evolved from its very beginning to now, when where we are standing right now with management. So we have started with that in the last class. So today actually we will continue with this topic, that is evolution of management. Now basically, if you remember, I have told you that evolution of management thought, it has basically started, we can say, we can divide it in mainly in 4 parts actually. The first part, which we can say that it is a pre-scientific management period, where there was no such concept of management and all that, but people started to realize that somewhere something, some management part is needed, and people have started to thinking about this. And at that time, as there was no such theories and all that on management, so people started to get this idea from different organizations, like as I told you already in last class, like Roman Catholic Church or some military organizations. And there were some writers like Charles Babbage, James Watt, etc. So this was the first starting, we can say the inception stage of the management. And then gradually with the time, changes and requirements, these things are getting changed, changes comes and all that. So management has evolved to some kind of theory, what we can say that classical theory. Now under this classical theory, you have found that there are 3 types of thinking, or 3 types of models regarding management. The first type is scientific management. The second one is administrative management theory, and third one is bureaucratic model. Now, if you remember that in the last class, we have started with scientific management. So we will continue with scientific management today at first. Then we will try to see the administrative management theory as well, as far as it is possible, and then bureaucratic model. And like that, we will continue. So after classical theory, the management has evolved to another stage, which is known as neoclassical theory. And in this neoclassical theory, Hawthorne experiment is a very renowned experiment. Hawthorne has experimented something on management, and has it is known as, basically it's falling under neoclassical theory. And then finally modern theory. Now modern theory, this is basically, we can divide it into 2 types: systems approach and contingency approach. So this is the basic evolution of management thought. Now if you see here, I have tried to show you one graph, or all that, whatever you can say it is. That is classical management school of theory, whatever we are talking about, that is composed of scientific management, administrative management, and bureaucratic management. It was the era of 1880 to 1930, basically. Roughly we can divide it. It is not, you cannot divide it very rigidly, because one era will come into another era. It is an intersecting thing. But roughly you can say that from 1880 to 1930, this was the era of classical management school. That means at that era, people believe in scientific management, people believe in administrative management, or people started to believe in scientific management, people started to believe in administrative management, and people started in bureaucratic management, believe in bureaucratic management as well. Next is from 1920 to 1950, this thing, as I told you, that you can see, like here classical management is ended at 1930, but neoclassical management, this era is starting from 1920. So basically the era, these are intersecting thing. Now if you have idea of set theory, intersecting means the common part, that means the 1930, 1920. So Neoclassical, this thinking has started with from 1920 already. Still there were classical management theories are going on. So that is the thing is. So 1920 to 1950, we can say that this is neoclassical management school of thought, or people started to believe in neoclassical management, where basically the management believes that human relations, behavioral things, these are very important. So that is basically neoclassical management school, and Hawthorne experiment is very prominent here. We will get it. And then the modern management school thought is this thing comes, which we are already, I mean, we are still in modern management school of thought. Now here we believe in systems approach, we believe in contingency approach, we believe in organizational humanism, we believe in management science. So all this we will discuss. Actually, all this we will discuss step by step. We will come to every thought of school. If we start with the classical management school, again, we have found in the last class as well, like classical management school, here our main assumption was people are rational. Now, that means people, they are very much rational. They are not biased. They are like machines, actually. They are like machines. They don't have such emotion and kind of thing. We don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that it is whether it is right or wrong, whether this thinking is right or wrong, but that was the thinking at that time. That is the main thing. So this classical management approach, it can be divided into three approaches. One is known as scientific management approach. Another is known as administrative principle. Another is known as bureaucratic organization. Now, under the scientific management approach, actually, it is given by Frederick Taylor. It is given by Frederick Taylor. And he is known as father of scientific management approach. And then what is, I mean, administrative approach? In the administrative approach, Henry Fayol is a very prominent name. With this, Mary Parker is also there, but Henry Fayol is more prominent name over there. Then with the bureaucratic organization, Max Weber was the very prominent name. So it is already we have discussed in the last class, but I'm just trying to give you some introduction again so that you can relate with the last class. So now if we come to the scientific management in a gross way, so we will find that scientific management theory, it is basically focusing on the improving of the efficiency of everyone in the organization. So scientific management theory says that everyone should be efficient, everyone should improve in his or her efficiency. So that is the basic thing of the scientific management. Now, here in the scientific management, the major stress or major emphasis, whatever you say, was on increasing production by intensive technology. Now, that is very important. In the scientific management, the belief is that we have to produce as much as possible, but for that we can use, or we will use very prominent technology, very modern technologies. So by using modern technologies as far as it is possible, we will try to increase our productivity. That is the basic thing of scientific management. And with that, there was a thinking like human beings are just considered, human beings are just like machines actually, and they will perform in very routine wise manner. So that is one drawback you can say, like human beings are not machine actually. But in that theory, it was assumed that human beings are the machines, and they will perform in the routine wise manner. So in the routine they will work on. Okay, let me take your attendance. গান টান বাজাবে, আমাদের এন্টারটেইন করবে কিছুক্ষণ পরে, সেই জন্য ঢুকেছে হয়তো, দেখছি। Okay, Baba Chota Bhim. अच्छा. Okay. So, what I was telling that, like in scientific management theory, the first belief was better, was good. That there is no problem. Like, I mean, the target is to produce as much as possible by using the modern technologies. I think that is not any problem. But the second thought of the scientific management theory is that human beings are just like machines and they will perform the routine tasks, and that is the problematic area in the scientific management. But still, it was the era of 1900 and all that. So basically, as I told you in the last class as well, that at that time people don't even know that management term. So at that time Taylor is giving this thing, this scientific management, this concept. Taylor has come with this concept. So it was at that time it was very valuable. So actually, if we see more on the scientific management theory, so here we will found that the Taylor, Frederick Winslow Taylor, he is basically regarded as the father of scientific management, as I told you. Now, actually, he has published one research paper in a journal. That is a research-oriented thing. So that was known as the Principles of Scientific Management. In 1911, he has done this. Now there were mainly four principles. The first principle was this: replace the rule of thumb work method with scientific study of tasks. That means before this era came, people they were working um, by the order of their supervisor. Whatever their supervisor says, they have to just obey that thing. So that is what saying rule of thumb. Okay, so replace that rule, replace that culture, and people started to think the task in a scientific way. This was the first thing. Second thing is that people started to, I mean, organizations have started to, apply the selection, training, using of technology, development of employees, etc. By some scientific manner. So that was another thing. Next is providing the detailed instructions, supervision to ensure the methods. So providing the detailed instructions to the workers, those who are working. So they need some instructions. So that culture has started with this Taylor's concept. Next, equal distribution of work between management and labor, or we can say those who are working in the first line, at the first line of organization. So between the management and those people where management assumes the role of planning using scientific methods. So everything people, I mean, in scientific management theory, here Taylor's opinion was that everything we should apply in, scientifically, not by any rule of thumb. Not like that your boss is thinking that it is right, so it is right. Not that. We will study it scientifically, logically, then we will implement it. So that is the thing. That is the concept came with this Taylorism. So that is we have already done in the last class. But in Taylor's the scientific management, there were a few techniques he has followed. The first technique, which is known as functional foremanship. And you know, in the functional foremanship, I have told you that means in every department, there will be some supervisor, there will be some foreman who will be responsible in different activities. Like for here, example, I have shown you, like factory manager, under the factory manager, there will be two foremen. One is planning in charge, another will be production in charge. I mean, this will be two department or two major people, and under them there will be four foremen actually. Four foremen. One is known as instruction card clerk, another will be known as route clerk, another will be known as time and cost clerk, that is disciplinarian. Now from the name you can understand, instruction clerk, whose responsibility is to produce the is to prepare the instructions for the workers who are working, and then route clerk, who will show you the actual route from the process, raw material to finished good, how the thing will be processed. So that will be the route clerk. Time and cost clerk, who will calculate the how much time a worker is working and what is the cost of producing the item and all these things. Disciplinarian, who will maintain the discipline in the organization or in the department rather. So this is planning in charge. Under planning in charge, there are 4 foremen, and ultimately they are guiding the worker. Similarly, production in charge, there are 4 foremen: gang boss, repair boss, inspector, speed boss. So they will also instruct the worker. So that is the concept came with the scientific management. Under scientific management, first technique was functional foremanship. Now the next technique was standardization. Now standardization and simplification of work. Here Taylor said that every organization should, I'm coming, once standardization, under the standardization, it is basically like that. Organization should set some standard, and everybody in the organization should try to achieve that standard. That is basically standardization is. So it was not, this concept was not there previously. Taylor has came with this concept. So obviously at that time it was very vital. It was very valuable. Now at this point of time, you can think that it is very common. But at that time, when people don't know even the term management, so at that time, Taylor has come with this idea. So it was very valuable at that time. Yeah, Ananya, Shubhajit, কি বলছিস?
না স্যার বলছি কি যে প্রোডাকশন ইনচার্জ আর প্ল্যানিং ইনচার্জের নিচে যে ইনস্ট্রাকশন কার্ড ক্লার্ক বা গ্যাং বস, এগুলো একটা পজিশন তো, মানে
এগুলো একটা, এরাই এক একটা ফোরম্যান, এরাই এক একজন ফোরম্যান। প্রত্যেকটা ডিপার্টমেন্টে এরকম ভাবে 4টে করে ফোরম্যান।
আচ্ছা স্যার, মানে 4 জনই থাকবে, 4 জনের মানে বেশি হতে পারে এরকম কোন?
হ্যাঁ, মানে টেলার তার স্টাডিতে বলেছিল 4 জনই থাকবে, ঠিক আছে? টেলার তার স্টাডিতে বলেছিল 4 জনই থাকবে। এটা টেলারের মতবাদটা আমরা পড়ছি।
আচ্ছা ওকে স্যার, ঠিক আছে, ঠিক আছে।
Okay. So next is standardization, and then coming is work study. Now what is work study? In the work study, it is basically a systematic study, study of method. What is the method followed? That is being studied. What is the speed of the job? How people are performing? That is motion study. How much time they are taking? That is time study. And the fatigue study. Fatigue study, that is how much rest an employee should get. That is fatigue study. So it is written over here. Taylor used this technique in method study. You see, it is written like, for example, for designing a scooter. Suppose you are designing a scooter in an organization, in a scooter manufacturing organization. So for designing a scooter, assembly line would require deciding the sequence of operations, place for main, machine, and raw materials, etc. That means যখন অর্গানাইজেশনে কাজ হয়, কোন আইটেমটা কার পরে, অ্যাসেম্বলি লাইনে কোন আইটেমটা কার পরে কার সঙ্গে অ্যাড হবে, কার সঙ্গে মার্জ হবে, হয়ে একটা টোটাল স্কুটার তো একটা বিভিন্ন পার্ট আছে, সেই পার্টগুলো কোনটার পরে কোনটা অ্যাড হবে, সেটা যদি পরপর রাখা না থাকে, বা যে ডিফারেন্ট যে পার্টগুলো সেটা যদি এক এক জায়গায় থাকে, so it will be difficult, time will be increased to produce the item. So that is basically method study. Okay, then motion study, as I told you, like suppose people are standing, they are standing and they are walking, or they are sitting, or they are in some other position. So this was the topic of the study, that suppose তুমি দেখলে যে when a people is sitting, they are producing better result, they are giving better result, but when they are standing, they are not able to produce better result, or the reverse thing. So this kind of study, so how much detailed study Taylor has done at that time. Just think, যে একটা লোক যখন দাঁড়িয়ে কাজ করলে বেশি কাজ করছে, বসে কাজ করলে তার বেশি সুবিধা হচ্ছে, নাকি তার পজিশনটা চেঞ্জ করে অন্য কোনো পজিশনে দিলে তার বেটার কাজ হচ্ছে, সুবিধা হচ্ছে। So that was the motion study. Next, this time study. Time study, as you can understand, that how much time it is taking to prepare a particular job, to do a particular job. So that is time study. Then is fatigue study, as I told you. Like human tendency is what? Human tendency, after some laborious work, they feel physically and mentally tired. Now টেলার ওখানেও স্টাডি করেছে যে সেই যে ফ্যাটিক, ও যে টায়ার্ড হচ্ছে কতক্ষণ পরে হচ্ছে, এবং হাউ মাচ টাইম, কতটা টাইম ওকে দিলে, আই মিন রেস্ট পজিশন কতটা পেলে হি ক্যান এগেন ওয়ার্ক বেটার। সো দ্যাট ইজ ফ্যাটিক স্টাডি, যে কতটা ব্রেক টাইম দেওয়া উচিত সেটা পার করার জন্য ফ্যাটিক স্টাডি করেছে। সো দিস ইজ বেসিক্যালি this is coming under the work study. So your question even come like that, what is work study done by Taylor? So under the work study there are method study, motion study, time study, and fatigue study. So we have to explain all these things. Okay, that is basically work study. So work study is one of the technique under the scientific management, you can see. And then there are another techniques like a differential piece weight system. Now let us see what is that. So differential piece weight system is basically how you are paying to your workers, whether you are paying your workers similar, even if they are working or not working, whether you are paying them similar, same amount of money, or whether you have some other approach. So at that time there was no such other approach, but Taylor has suggested two types of wages for the similar work, like higher wages for efficient workers and lower wages for inefficient workers. So Taylor classified the workers as efficient or inefficient based on their performance actually. So Taylor has suggested this at first time. Before that, before this era, this concept was not there. Like performance basis payment, this concept has come with this Taylorism, with this theory of Taylor. Okay, and finally there is another technique which is known as mental revolution. Mental revolution is basically the change in thinking, both on the part of the management and on the part of the workers. Basically, the success of implementation of this scientific management, it was depending on this mental revolution of the management and workers. Jodi management বা worker ওরা যদি এই যে টেলারের এই যে থিওরিজ গুলোকে if they could not realize this, then it was very difficult for them, I mean for Taylor, to establish his theory. Now people has understood that this is important, these things are important. People has changed their mind from their conventional thinking at that time. That's why this scientific management theory has saw its success. So that was the mental revolution. So this is all over about the scientific management. This is the total thing about the scientific management. Okay, so scientific management, the basic techniques are followed like this, whatever I told you. This functional foremanship, standardization of work, then work study. Under work study there are several other studies, the differential page weight system, and mental revolution. So now I will ask some question. I mean I want to get some question from you. If you have any doubt, if you have any sort of doubt, if you have anything to say about this scientific management, you can say, students.
No, sir, clear, sir.
Okay, so that is about scientific management. Now after scientific management we have seen administrative management theory, bureaucratic model, and all that, but we will discuss it some other day, this bureaucratic model and all that. Today we will move to another very important theory, that is, you can see, and I've told you, that is the neoclassical management school. I'm just moving to neoclassical management school from classical management school. On the classical management school, I have seen we have seen scientific management theory, administrative management theory, and bureaucratic management theory. We will discuss it later on in the next classes, subsequent classes. But today we will move to a neoclassical management school. Now under the neoclassical management school, it was started at 1920, and it was there in 1950 up to 1950. So under the neoclassical management school, human relations behavioral theory, this was very important. So we will discuss this theory today. So basically, this human relations management, this theory, it is known as, more prominently, it is known as Hawthorne studies or Hawthorne experiments. More popularly, it is known as Hawthorne studies or Hawthorne experiments. Now, some of the major phases, if we see some of the major phases of this experiment, because this is an experimental result done by Hawthorne. This is an experimental result done by Hawthorne. And now these Hawthorne experiments, it was as follows. I mean, it was some major phases. So the phase was like that. Illumination was the first phase. Illumination experiments, we say. Next, second phase was rarely assembly test room experiments. Third is mass interviewing program. And fourth was bank wearing observation room experiment. So these are the 4 phases Hawthorne gone through in his study. And again, I'm saying that it is a research oriented, it is an experiment. Now I will come gradually the thing in detail. So basically, this was the experiments to determine the effects of changes. I mean, the first thing, illumination experiment I'm talking about. The illumination experiment, it was to determine the effect of changes in illumination. Illumination on productivity. Now, what is illumination? Light, the intensity of light illumination. তো তোমার যে প্রোডাকশন প্ল্যান্ট, সেই প্রোডাকশন প্ল্যান্টে লাইটটা বাড়ালে, কমালে, লাইটের কালার চেঞ্জ করলে, is it bringing some changes into the on the production, on the worker's mind? So is it hampering the productivity? So to study that, it was done by Hawthorne, and it is known as illumination experiment. So that is done at it was done in 1924 to 27. So you see, up to 1930, we say that there is classical management, but from 1920, neoclassical thinking has started to come. So in 1924 to 27, Hawthorne studies this. So it is like that. So number 2 is that rarely assembly test room experiment. Now, what is that? Now, this was to determine the effects of changes in hours and other working conditions on productivity. That means here, Hawthorne has studied that if we change the hours of working hour, if we change the working condition, তোমাকে আগে যে ঘরে কাজ করতে দেওয়া হতো, এখন অন্য একটা ঘরে নিয়ে যাওয়া হলো। আগে যে ঘরটায় তুমি কাজ করতে, ইফ সেই ঘরটায় হয়তো হাওয়া আলো বাতাস বেশি আসতো, বাট তুমি যে নেক্সট ঘরে যাচ্ছ, তোমাকে যে অন্য ঘরে নিয়ে যাওয়া হচ্ছে, সেখানে হয়তো ততটা ফ্রেন্ডলি এনভায়রনমেন্ট নয়। সো ইজ দিস আ ফ্যাক্টর অন প্রোডাক্টিভিটি? অনন্যা বা শুভজিৎ বলো।
স্যার
বলো, শুনতে পেলাম না, কি বললে? হ্যালো, তোমার ভয়েসটা ব্রেক করছে।
স্যার আপনি যেটা আনলক করতে, দুজন বাইরে আছে, ঢুকতে পারছেন ওরা।
হ্যাঁ স্যার, অনেক স্টুডেন্ট ঢুকতে পারছে না,
ঢুকতে পারছে না ওরা, নেটওয়ার্ক ইস্যুর জন্য বেরিয়ে গেছিল।
করে দিয়েছি। So what I was saying that experiments on changing of work hour, experiments on working condition, that was done at the second stage in the Hawthorne experiment. That is known as rarely assembly test room experiment. That was the second step of the Hawthorne experiment. Now the third stage was mass interviewing program. Now what was mass interviewing program? Here Hawthorne has arranged some plant-wise interviews to determine workers' attitudes, sentiments, and all that. So এখানে Hawthorne কি করলো? Hawthorne এখানে যেটা করলো সেটা হলো যে he took lots of interviews of the workers about their attitudes, about their thinkings, about their sentiments, what they are thinking, how they are sentimentally, how they are emotionally attached to the organization, he has tried to study these things. And it was the third stage of his experiment. And in the fourth stage, at the fourth stage, Hawthorne has, it was the stage of determination and analysis of social organization at work. That means here, Hawthorne has tried to understand the social aspect of the organization or social aspect on the work of the people, of the worker. So that is basically the fourth stage. So here, if you see, Hawthorne, he has done it very scientific manner. He has done it very systematic way. At first, he has started with very basic thing at your manufacturing plant, because all these things are basically on keeping in mind of manufacturing plant. That because at that time there was, I mean, at that time there was no service industry kind of concept. So basically এখানে ম্যানেজমেন্ট মানে যা বলা হয়েছে সেগুলো সবটাই ম্যানুফ্যাকচারিং এর উপর বেস করে দাঁড়িয়ে আছে, বাট এগুলোকে আমরা সার্ভিস ইন্ডাস্ট্রিতেও ভাবতে পারি, তাতে কোনো অসুবিধা নেই। সো দ্য থিং ইজ দ্যাট যে হথর্ন এট ফার্স্ট যেটা করলো সেটা হলো যে ও ফার্স্টে খুব বেসিক জায়গায় গেল। খুব বেসিক জায়গাটা কি, যে ফার্স্টে দেখলো যে এই যে তোমার প্ল্যান্টের যে যে আলোটা জ্বলছে, প্ল্যান্টে যে আলোগুলো জ্বলছে, সেই আলোগুলোর কোনো ইফেক্ট আছে কিনা। খুব বেসিক জিনিস, খুব বেসিক, হয়তো আমরা চট করে ভাববো না, বাট at that time it was very 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 new approach, very unique approach, যে হ্যাঁ ওকে, যে ওই আলোগুলো কোনো এফেক্ট করে কিনা ওয়ার্কারকে, তার মাইন্ডে, সেটা কি প্রোডাকশনে হ্যাম্পার রিফ্লেক্ট করছে কিনা, সেটার জন্য প্রোডাকশন হ্যাম্পার করছে কিনা। সো হথর্ন এটা নিয়ে ফার্স্ট ভাবলো। নেক্সট ও যেটা করলো, ও বললো যে আমি ইফ উই ক্যান চেঞ্জ দি ওয়ার্কিং আওয়ার, ইফ উই ক্যান চেঞ্জ দি ওয়ার্কিং কন্ডিশন, is it affecting people, is it affecting workers in their on their production, on their productivity? So that is basically done by the next stage. Then at the third stage, he has taken lots of interviews, direct front to front interview, face to face interview, and tried to understand the workers' attitudes, their sentiments, their thinkings, how they are thinking, how much they are sentimentally attached to the organization, and all these things. What is their attitude? And he has tried to study all these things. Next, at the fourth stage, he has taken another aspect, that is the social aspect, in his experiment. So by these four stages, Hawthorne has studied this thing, and he has reported it, which is known as Hawthorne studies or Hawthorne experiments, which is coming under the neoclassical management approach. We call it human relations management. So here the main thing was the human relation. Here the main stress, main focus was on the human relation, how humans are related, how workers are related with each other. So that is basically Hawthorne's experiment. So we will study it detail in our next session, because this session is going to be end very soon. Only 2 minute time is left. So I'm giving you another session. Please join at that session and we will continue from there.
Okay, sir.